Nice to see so many people out tonight. Very good. I'm not really going to give a talk. I give enough talks, so you don't want to hear another talk of mine. I have to save some of these up. Is anybody that's new here tonight? You're new? Yeah? Nice, very good. Have you either of you ever meditated before, or how did you end up here then? Internet. Okay, nice. What about yourself? You ever meditated before? Little? Nice. Very good. Okay. So, yeah, as Shannon said, the format, we will be meditating for a little bit longer than what is probably usual for a brand new person. It's good that you're here. Also on the Friday nights, those are quite good for beginners as well. They're very much introductory kind of meditations. But you'll be fine tonight. Don't worry. You'll be okay. I'll give some guidance as we're going along. I'll keep it relatively simple. And then after that, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me. As Shay said, if anybody has their phones on or whatever, if you could just turn it on to silent, and if for some reason it does ring and you have to go out and have a chat, that's fine. But maybe just sort of go near the road, kind of thing. There's sometimes people decide to have a conversation out in the hall, and it's not so great for everybody else that's in here. So just to be obviously things happen. That's fine, no problem at all. But just to be compassionate towards all the other people that are meditating here. So with that, we'll start the meditation then. And just find a comfortable seat. You can take a few deep breaths just to center yourself. And whether you're sitting cross-legged on the floor or you're in a chair, it's totally fine. But the one thing you want to try to do in either posture is keep your back reasonably straight, your head upright, just like you had a string in the crown of your head and somebody was gently pulling you up. And as you take these few deep breaths, start to bring your awareness to the feeling of the body. Simply sitting here. Its weight against the seat. The touch of your clothes on your skin. The overall feeling of it being upright. All the little different slight movements and adjustments it makes as it balances. A lot of our time we spend our thinking up in our heads. Just spend the next few minutes getting in touch with the body and what's it like to move our attention around the body and notice different things, like noticing what the bottom of your feet feel like, or the back of your knee, or the area under your shoulder blades. Just take a few moments to move your attention around your body, noticing all the different kinds of sensations and paying attention to them. And for anybody that already has some experience in meditation, just feel free to tune my voice out. And if anybody wants some guidance and instructions, you can gently follow along. Our objective in meditation is to try to bring our attention, our awareness, or our mindfulness back to some sort of object over and over, like the breath or the sensations in our hands. So just see if you can put your attention just on one thing, like the feeling of the breath coming and going, or the sensations in your hands, or even repeating some sort of word that has some meaning for you over in your mind. And whenever the mind or your attention wanders off, it's okay. This is absolutely natural and normal. Happens to everyone. And just gently bring our attention back to that object, the feeling of the breath coming and going. We simply do this over and over. continue to practice, see if you can notice the different movements of the mind. We're usually trying to push something away or control our attention. As we think this is going to make our meditation better. But if we simply loosen our grip, and become more at ease, the more we abandon the distraction, the more we abandon the reckless thoughts, the more we abandon wanting things to be a different way. The more that stillness arises once we abandon. Any kind of movements like this, just simply drop them. any burdens or concerns. What's it like just to lay them down, to abandon them, even just for a moment? Just to let these things be. The distraction that keeps bothering you. What's it like to abandon it for a moment and just rest? If we're struggling in the meditation, what's it like to just give up the struggle? You can only come to rest when you stop struggling. The more we struggle, the more agitation in the mind, the more movement, just let that struggle go, and stillness is already there. It's nowhere to be found. It's already here. All you have to do is just stop. And even if it starts all over again, we can always just put down the struggle all over again. This place of stillness is already there. Just stop struggling, and it appears by itself.
Thank you, Ajahn, for the guided meditation. Now we come to Q&A session. We will alternate the question between in person and online. If you have any question in the room, would you please raise your hand? I will pass you the mic. Thank you.
Well done, if that was your first time sitting for that long. It's a longer time, so good work. Still here.
Ajahn, I might start a question from
Yeah.
online. What are some of ways one can meditate when emotionally overwhelmed?
So it sort of depends how strong the emotional overwhelm actually is. Like if it is really strong, at times, you can't really, like if you're too far in the grips of some sort of emotional overload, it's probably not the best time to try to sit there and still yourself. So if things are like really, really quite bad, it's better to try to do something, go for a bit of a walk, calm down in some kind of a way. And then when you're a little bit more stable, then you can go in and do some meditation. But sometimes what happens is if you're really in the grips of something that's really, really strong and you sit down and close your eyes and try to do some meditation, sometimes it can make it worse. So there's a general kind of thing is if it's really, really bad, obviously, you don't try to meditate straight away. That being said, we can, the biggest thing we can do is if we're in some kind of emotional upheaval is to breathe really deeply. This is quite useful when obviously when people are having things like panic attacks and things like that, just breathing really, really deeply. This can, in some sense, bring back some sort of equilibrium. And so if we're having some kind of emotional turmoil, that's not this kind of like full scale, something really, really bad is going on. But it is that kind of something, something is sort of like arising within the heart at that time. This deep breathing can help quite a lot. And then once you've sort of stabilized again, it can be a bit easier to go into the actual meditation. So, but if it's this, but then on the lower side of things, if it's just a sort of a kind of emotional discomfort, then some sort of emotional discomfort in some kind of way, i.e., you're feeling sort of you're angry or agitated in some way. This is where you can use, you could say, like counterbalanced kinds of meditations to balance that out. So again, if you're just sort of generally angry, somebody said something to you at work that's annoyed you a little bit, or just this kind of general garden variety kind of anger. This is where you can use a counter meditation to balance that out in some way. So developing, trying to settle the mind back down a little bit, but then also using something like unconditional kindness or loving kindness to balance that emotional instability out. So again, it really depends on the severity of the emotional upheaval that you're going through. If it's really, really bad, you probably want to try to do something external, go for a walk, get out of the situation, all these kinds of things. If it's a kind of reasonably strong internal upheaval, you can do this kind of deep breathing. But if it's your kind of lower level emotional discomfort, like sort of anger or something, then you can balance that out with different practices. So yeah, depends on the level. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ajahn. Do we have any question in the room?
Yeah.
My question was, while while you're meditating,
Yeah.
I found my mind wandered and came back though.
Yep.
Is it better to breathe or to do to put your mind onto something within your body, like your hands?
Yeah.
What is easier? I found my breath was able to bring me back calmly. Is that the right way to do it? If you find your mind just wanders throughout the meditation.
Yeah. Just to maybe give you some reassurance. Did anybody else's mind wander in the meditation tonight? Yeah. You got 1 second of, yeah, so we sat here for like an hour and you had like a second of mindfulness. So that's totally normal. This happens to, it happens to absolutely everybody. So you're not alone of like, oh, am I doing this right? No, you're totally fine. So generally with any kind of meditation, you have to, when you find the thing that works for you, that's what you do. So for you, if you find it easy to do the breath, just stay with the breath. If you find it easier to do the keep your attention on the hands, you just do that. Whatever works for you, there's no real one perfect answer for these things. It's just something that you try. And, if you have this affinity with it, it's like, okay, this thing holds my attention well, then it's like, yeah, great, do that. If you like thinking about zebras for like an hour, you can sit there and think about a zebra for an hour. If that calms your mind down, just do that thing. So, essentially, most people that listen to what I say, sometimes most people know that I'm not too worried about like the actual object that you put your attention on. The useful thing that you need to do is learn to develop this skill of bringing your attention back to that thing. It's whether it's your breath, whether it's the hands, whether it's thinking about zebras, whether it's anything like that, doesn't really matter. Just we put our attention on something, it obviously wanders away, takes off, wanders off. Then when we recognize that it has wandered off, we just bring the thing back, and we just do that over and over for minutes upon minutes, hours upon hours, days upon days, months upon months, years upon years, decades upon decades. I'm up to decades now, so yeah, I'm still doing the same thing that you did the very first night that if it's your first night meditating. I'm still doing the same thing. Yeah, so it's you're on the right track. So.
Do you have any other questions in the room?
Thank you for the meditation.
That's fine.
What is the best way to deal with pain that might arise just from, say, sitting in one spot for a long time?
Physical pain?
Physical, yeah.
Yeah, physical pain. So there's a few different schools of thought on it. So obviously, if it's a pre-existing injury, just say you have a slipped disc in your back or something like that. Now, you don't want to fight against that thing. You can't fight against that thing. You find the most comfortable position to sit in, and look if it gets bad, and you have to shift around, then there's no problem with that. The big thing is if you're having some sort of pain in the body that's arising from meditation and you need to shift, shifting's fine, but you just try to do it mindfully. So say, for example, you've sat for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're starting to get a pain in the leg and you need to move. You don't just instantly react and go, oh, pain in my leg, just shift around, move kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, there's a pain in my leg. Let's see if I can ride it for a little bit. Nope. Okay, it's there. I have to move. And so then you just try to mindfully move your leg. You put your attention on your leg, put your attention on the movement of the leg, move it to a different spot, and then try to settle back into that new position. So it's fine to move with some kind of pain, as long as you move mindfully. There's another sort of school of thought with this. Is like, obviously you don't want to push yourself too far. If it's really painful, obviously, moving there's nothing wrong with it. But you're doing this kind of dance all the time with your pain. just so say your like pain threshold's here, you've sat for 15 minutes and it's like it's getting painful. What you want to be doing is like trying to at least get up to that level, that kind of threshold kind of thing. And if you're like, okay, well, 15 minutes and I get a pain in my leg, you want to try to go, oh, can I do like 15 and a half minutes? Can I just try to go a little bit through it? And then if you can go a little bit through it, that's great. It's fine. Then you move. And so what happens if you do this with, and again, I'm just speaking like general pains in meditation of sitting still for periods of time. If you do this next time you sit meditation, you'll get up to your 15 and a half minutes, and it's like, oh, hang on, I used to be only able to sit for 15 minutes, but now I can sit for 15 and a half minutes. It's got a little bit better. So if you can sort of get up to this line and push past it just a tiny bit, but then you have to pull back, and it's fine, no problem, got to move. But if we keep doing this and we keep sort of pushing this line, it gets easier to sit still for longer and longer and longer, because we're trying to just work against with a little bit of like a tiny bit of discomfort, and we're moving against that, and we're learning to be in that. We're also learning to be equanimous with the kind of pain that arises in the body. And it goes the other way as well. So if you've got up to 15 minutes and you go, I know that at 15 minutes I get in too much pain and I have to move. The problem is if you get up to 14 and a half minutes and go, okay, the pain's coming, let's pull back. What ends up happening is this line moves backwards, and it's harder and harder for you to sit still. So this is why I said it's this sort of dance of like just going a little bit past it and then pulling back and then gradually shifting this up, but not going too far. You don't want to go, well, I can sit 15 minutes and I am in pain, and I don't want to go, well, I'm just going to sit here for 3 hours and like not move. Like, you don't want to go that far, obviously. So it's this kind of movement back and forth between it, and then whenever you do have to move and you are in pain, that's fine. Just mindfully move. So, so it's this kind of strange little dance you do, and different times it'll be different. I know when I was like younger and a lot lighter, I could sit for a lot longer. Now I'm older and bigger, and it's like, I can't sit for as long. So it's just the way it is. That's the way bodies are.
Thank you, Ajahn. This online question, I was thinking about my to-do list during most of the meditation. What type of meditation do you suggest when this is happening?
It's a really good analogy, because you sort of like, as you meditate and distraction comes along, it's like this. I have this friend that describes it as like a kind of taskmaster that comes along and tells us, it's like, oh, okay, after this you need to like jump on the 3A tram and get back, and then tomorrow you need to wake up at this time in the morning and blah blah blah, and then when you get home tonight you need to get this thing out of the fridge and cook it and blah blah blah. And so my friend has this image of the kind of taskmaster that comes and continues to tell you things. And usually, if you have some sort of to-do list, or you have some sort of taskmaster, it's in a way it's doing its job properly. It's if you're in pain or something like this, you have the pain taskmaster that says, hey, you're in pain, you need to do something about this. And so these kinds of thoughts that are coming, they're, in a way, they're trying to help us. They're trying to help us in some way. They're reminding us what I have to do tomorrow. They're reminding me what tram I need to get back home. But while we're meditating, we can just sort of say, okay, that's my tram travel conductor guy. Okay, you're telling me I need to catch a tram home after this. That's fine, thanks. That's really nice, but let's pick this up after the meditation. The one that says to you, it's like, oh, we have to pull this thing out of the fridge later to defrost it or whatever. It's like, that's my chef taskmaster. You just go, okay, chef, thanks very much for doing that, but now's not the time for that. We'll just put that aside. So when we are assailed by this kind of internal to-do list, sometimes trying to crush the mind of like, no, don't think about it, just stay with the meditation words. Sometimes that doesn't work, and so sometimes we have to be a little bit creative and go, well, okay, well, this thing's coming to mess with me, I'm just going to mess with it. So we can try different things. Obviously you can try things like, well, this thing's coming up, and you just bat it out of your mind of like, okay, no, I'm just going to stay with the meditation word, in, out, in, out, in, out. Or I'm going to focus on something else totally. You can try different things. Essentially, all it really is just trying to do different things and finding the things that works for you. You can do many different things. If you find this kind of telling the internal taskmaster to just to wait for a little while, if that works, great. If coming back to one single object works, that's great. Reflecting on impermanence works well as well. It's like, well, look, this thing just comes and goes. We don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, so there's no use thinking about it too much. So there's different things you can do, but again, you just have to, just like anybody that comes and annoys you all the time, you can't just like bark at them. You can't bark at them and yell at them and tell them to go away. That doesn't usually work. You have to be like tricky with them. You have to be sort of like nice and I'm pretending I'm listening to you, but I'm not really listening to you. Yeah, okay, yeah, fine, yeah. And then eventually they'll just get bored and go away. So we have to be as skillful as we are with people that annoy us. We have to be even more skillful with the thoughts that we have that annoy us. So yeah, learn to trick yourself in some way. So.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Sorry, I believe I'm going to stuff this up.
That's fine.
The question.
Yeah.
But I'll try and get as much as I can.
I might stuff the answer up as well, so you're in good company.
That's the way it is. Yeah. Essentially, I just want to know, how does one stop like self-sabotaging activities, right? So, for example, myself, I have the wisdom that if I eat too much or whatever, drink whatever the person's poison is, to zone out, numb out, because the fear is just so intense. You obviously can't sit at the time, like you said, you can go for a walk and stuff, go for a run. And then there is the wisdom, there is the clarity that, it's not going to work. What are you going to do tomorrow? Or, and you just try and sit. So obviously when you conduct that activity, there's obviously guilt coming up, of course. And there's, it's unskillful, like, you have the evidence, right? But sometimes when the fear, when, like you said, in the grips of, in an emotional turmoil, you just want to zone out. But I guess what I've been like, if it's too painful, then you move or whatever. But sometimes you try and sit with it, and it works. As in, whatever, the taskmaster goes away, so to speak. But I just wanted to ask, like, how can one deal with that when they don't have as much mindfulness, I suppose.
So is the question sort of something like, sometimes we try to rectify some sort of, external or even internal problem that we might have, but sometimes we don't feel like we have the resources to actually do that.
Or your heart's pounding and you have a panic attack, for example.
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on what it is as well. So if it is something like a panic attack or something, it's like, you do the regular kind of things of trying to
drop back into your body, take deep breaths.
I really liked when you proposed deep breathing.
Yeah.
People, it does work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and really like getting out of the head and getting out of the story that's happening when you're sort of having the panic, and just sort of going back down.
Yeah, diaphragmatically.
Back down into the body kind of thing, and just sort of noticing the sensations come and go. And if you're sort of speaking more generally, how do you sort of rectify some sort of issue that you might be having there if you don't really have the resources and you feel like you're sort of self-sabotaging yourself in some kind of way because of this? There's an element there we really do have to try to be, as kind as we can with ourselves. Because, the bottom line is like you started by saying, I think I might stuff this question up. It's like we never want to stuff anything up.
Yeah.
None of us want to do that. None of us want to do something that's going to cause us some internal turmoil. We don't want to do anything that causes us any kind of stress or pain or anything like that. But we just end up doing it to ourselves. Why do we end up doing to ourselves? Well, it's, we just don't have the mindfulness there yet. So it's sort of having that kindness to yourself, of recognizing it's like, well, look, I just don't have the necessary strength to do this at the moment. Like I could I could try and like lift this thing up here, but maybe I don't have like this table here, but just maybe I don't have the necessary strength to do this. If I try to lift it and I can't lift it, there's no use of me going, it's like, God, you're weak, you're useless, you can't lift anything up.
Absolutely.
Like there's absolutely no use in doing that.
You're just being self-critical, you're just going to go down that path of zoning out.
You're being self-critical, and just for something that you don't have the physical capacity to do. I can't lift the roof off the house. So there's no use me criticizing myself for doing that. So sometimes with these things that are just in the moment or outside of our control, we have to be kind to ourselves and go, look, just right now, I can't deal with this thing. Or, it got the better of me. Right then it got the better of me, but that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. I'll try to understand that, look, sometimes I have the capacity to deal with this. Sometimes I don't have the capacity to deal with it. When I don't have the capacity to deal with it, that's okay. There's no kind of worry or shame in doing it. Or you said something like you felt like a guilt because of it.
Self-loathing, and then it doesn't work.
And all that does is again, it's just causing yourself more suffering. So if you can have that kind of kindness towards yourself of like, look, sometimes I get things wrong. Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I go off the rails. This is normal. So sometimes we have this thought that the harder on myself that I am, the more I'll improve. We have this feeling of like, the more critical I am of myself, it's like, this is going to make me better. So I become more critical of myself. But it ends up sort of sabotaging yourself. But for people that can be kinder to yourself and can forgive yourself a lot more, they do end up taking on more responsibility. It's easier for them to be flexible and move.
Absolutely, I've seen that,
So, but if you're just really rigid with yourself, it's hard for you to be flexible and to move with these things. So this kindness towards ourselves, it's not a weakness. It's a strength that we develop. And so, like lifting the thing, it's not the thing that I'm too weak, I'm just not strong enough yet. If I develop more kindness, I become stronger to do this thing. And if I develop more self-kindness, I'm a lot more stronger to deal with all these different issues and things that happen in our life. And just the final thought on this is that sometimes we think we're going to mess things up, or we have wrecked something, or that we can't really bear something in life, and we've gone through something and it's like it's been too much. There's this element there where even at the point where we've gone through something that it is the most stressful thing that we've gone through in our lives, in that moment of going through it, we've already bore that burden. We've already got through that thing. The worst situation in your life, you've already got through it. And so we have these things. It was like, oh, this other thing is going to be bad. I don't know if I can deal with it. You've already got through a lot of bad things already. You do have that resiliency there. You have some storehouse of resiliency to be able to get through these things. So just, I think, recollecting on that as well, it's like, well, actually, I do have a lot of resiliency in other ways, and I've got through other things. I think that can sometimes just help us lift us up a little bit when we are sort of spiraling down of like, yeah, actually, I've been here before. I've been through some of this before. I can do it again. So, yeah, the big thing is, just not sort of beating yourself up. It's easy for me to sit here and say this. It's very hard to do it. No problem.
Ajahn, this is an online question. During meditation, I felt a sort of massage tapping sensation at back of my shoulder.
Yep.
Should I focus on this sensation or focus on my breathing?
Sorry, I didn't hear that clear. You felt a massage sensation on the back of your shoulder? Is that the...
Yeah, massage tapping.
That's awesome. Like, I wish I could sit here and get a if I could sit here and get a massage on my hips and stuff, that'd be awesome. Like, it'd be great. So no, obviously we have, when we sit meditation, a lot of times we do have these we can have these like strange physiological reactions or these strange physiological sensations that we might attribute to something else, but we're just having this kind of, there's some sort of little muscle adjustment or something like that. So usually you don't really want to, if you sat down and you decided it's like, okay, I'm going to sit here for this 20 minutes and I'm going to watch the breath, and that's just what I'm going to do for the 20 minutes. If this kind of tapping thing comes up, it's like, just try to not worry about it too much. It's like, okay, well, it's just the body doing things that the body does. The body moves, the muscles twitch and all these kinds of things. Sometimes there'll be a heat sensation somewhere in my body. Sometimes there'll be a coolness sensation somewhere in my body. This is fine. Just let the body do what it's going to do, and then you try to get back to your normal method of meditation. If it becomes overly prominent and worrying kind of thing, you can sort of move and do all these kinds of things. But as I said, do it mindfully. But yeah, if it's just something that happens once or twice, don't worry about it. But if it's something that regularly happens every time you meditate, then you probably need to go, well, hang on, well, what's maybe what's causing this thing? So say, for example, and what I mean by this is, you sit down to meditate, you've been doing it every day for 3 weeks, and this ephemeral masseuse comes and gives you a massage 3 days, every day for 3 days out of the week. Then maybe we can sort of think of this kind of, well, what's maybe the cause of this? Do I have some sort of injury? Do I have some sort of, is there some sort of thing that I need to rectify, or is it something I'm paying a lot of attention to, so I'm worrying about this thing and it's causing this thing to get worse? So if it's happening a lot, then we dig into it. But if it's just something that's once or twice, I probably wouldn't worry about it too much. So hopefully it's not too serious, and hopefully they are a decent masseuse, and it's not a bad masseuse. I've had some. I lived in Thailand for about 10 years, and you can get some brutal massages there. There's this guy we had, and he'd get a hammer, and he'd have a chisel, a wooden chisel with a rounded, like a hammerhead shark, and so he'd get this, and he'd hit you with it. He'd hit you all the way down your the inside of your shin. And it's like, no, it was pretty painful. But he got to one day, I was having a problem with my back. He's like, oh, I'm going to do this at the bottom of your spine. I'm like, no, you're not doing that. So hopefully you don't have a massager like that. Hopefully it's a nice, just normal relaxing massager. So yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay. So with that, we might call it a night. If nobody else has got any questions, I'll call it a night. Thanks for coming along tonight. It's nice to have pretty much a full house. So that was pretty good. So yeah, anybody that wants to join in, we're doing nightly sessions as well online. So you're more than welcome to come and join in on that. Tomorrow night, Sandeep is here. Doing just the lay meditation. It's unguided. You can just sit there for a period of time. Friday night we got the Nurturing Awareness series. Is quite nice. Come along. It's very simple. Have a cup of tea with us and all these kinds of things. So yeah, with that we'll call it a night. Okay. All the best to everyone. Night.